Hey, welcome back. Greedy here to give you some super advanced tips on maxing out your Blue Lord Gunlancer's DPS potential. In my previous guides, I went over the build itself, rotations, engravings, and all the technical stuff. Now we're going to get into how to put all of that to use on the field, because as easy as it is to start a Blue Lord and not die in raids, it's a different story to eke out that Giga MVP level DPS when faced with new mechanics in the latest endgame content. This right here is true to our final form, the forbidden jutsus so to speak, so let's get into it. As we all know, the Shoeshire bros always want all that thick black dumpster fire smoke. In the fray, it comes down to mastering the basics that are often overlooked and seldom spoken about in order to be able to execute min-max advanced techniques. We'll go over both here, and some of these tips can apply to other classes as well, as seen in my How to Be MVP video, in which some things may coincide, but this guide itself is tailored for the Bluelancer. If you've been watching me on stream, twitch.tv/agreedy, stop by if you want to become a Giga Chad in all aspects of life. You may know a few of these tips already as we talk about them and always strive to improve. I hope this can add or clarify some of the things we've discussed in passing. Let's go over the things we'll dive into, and I'll go over each one in depth and explain the hows and whys. First is boring auto attack, but why it's crucial. Properly using distance, max range, positioning, and movement. How to maximize your shield and keep it healthy. The Backjump and how it can be good for you, endgame build change Metamorphosis and when to do it, and a bonus tip, and this might actually change the way you play Gunlancer forever. So let's get right into first, the boring auto attack. We start at the most basic level, and as boring and mundane as it may seem, this will over the course of the time of a fight help you eke out a good amount more damage. This is due to the fact that no matter how much CDR you have, you'll have enough uptime to expend all your skills and be waiting for them to cool down. This means you're doing the right thing, aka going ham. At this point we auto attack because they hit pretty hard. Every third attack hits the boss multiple times and has a longer range. When you master the art of the auto attack and know its timings, it'll be possible to weave it between skills and animation cancel with your skill of choice for max damage. Here I would recommend a quicker skill on low CD like Shield Bash, which is in our initiation rotation anyways. Aside from spamming auto attack to max damage, this can also come in useful when poking the boss to hit confirm. The second usefulness of the auto attack is in our initiation itself. Many bosses spawn but are not hittable for a few seconds, meaning when you hit it, it'll show no damage numbers, and when you pop your Warrior Scream initiator to build shield and the boss is not hittable, we'll have wasted the scream and will build no shield at all. This is a huge downer as it forces us to wait for the next scream cooldown and essentially play without a shield, which also nullifies our barricade engraving. This is a huge loss in DPS and a horrible way to start any fight. While the bar showing up is also a good telltale sign, it can often be a millisecond off or just plain late, and it's good to build this habit for bosses that don't have bars like Raid Guardians. This is why we always poke bosses that appear and have animations or switch phases first with the auto attack to confirm that it's hittable, and then go into our Warrior Scream for initiation. On top of these two boring basics, you have to know your auto attack. Knowing the range and cadence of your auto attack plays a big part in maxing out your damage. In situations where a boss may move backwards on your second auto attack, knowing that the third has more range and letting it fly for the juicy multi-hit nets you bonus damage. The third attack will always have a brief delay before it unleashes the multi-hit strike, so that's something to keep in mind as well. Next, we have knowing your distance, max range, movement, and positioning. This is first and foremost the most useful thing to keep in mind as a Blue Lord, since we lack mobility like molasses on a cold day. It's imperative that we use our skills to move and position ourselves into a place of maximum damage potential. While for obvious reasons the best place for maxing DPS will be near the boss, there are times when it's more fortuitous to max range your skills as to avoid an annoying AoE that may CC you or just hit super hard. Let's get into all of this and its most notable skills. So for every skill you use, it'll be essential in knowing the optimal place to let it rip and knowing how much distance it covers. This is because since we lack the mobility, we want to put ourselves in the best positions according to each skill. Most often than not, we'll be hugging the boss. Literally hugging its face or butt, thighs, or side, whichever you prefer, but there are a few skills that can be used differently and some that should be used differently. First is the Warrior Scream initiation. We should always try to max range this. This is where it pays to know your skill distance, as max ranging dramatically reduces the chance that the boss will interrupt your initial scream, which builds our shield gauge to get to ripping on DPS. This first initiation is so crucial, and as stated before, always get the auto hit confirmation to make sure the boss is hittable if it's a boss that respawns or switches phases or has a delay animation before you can start hitting it. Next is Shield Bash. Shield Bash has a deceptively long range. Even though the first 2 hits need to be close in, if you're in a position where you need to hug the boss and you're a bit off from hugging the boss's taint, use the shield bash, as it'll most likely hit the last 2 hits and you'll be close enough to the boss to start bombing your harder attacks. When you're not super far from the boss, it's best to use the shield bash skill as opposed to other movement skills, because shield charge, for example, you actually want to be close to the boss because of the tripod that increases its damage per successful hit, and you want to amplify the attack as much as possible with all of its hits channeling. Only use the shield charge for movement if the boss is super far away and you have other skills up that can be used. This is the only scenario in which using shield charge for movement is worth it, to keep uptime close up and our other hard hitting skills. The reason we don't use leap attack for movement is because we want to use it with the damage window we get from Bash's attack power increase along with Guardian's Thunder, when possible. Now we get into Guardian Thunder. This attack has a very long range, but to get all the hits from the attack, you have to be hugging the boss. Position yourself literally sitting on the boss's face, or vice versa, whichever you prefer. The initial attack, the spreading attack, as well as the extra bolt that drops down randomly is most optimally positioned of its chance of hitting when you cast the skill when literally stuck in its cleavage. Burst Cannon is another notable skill because for this skill, you don't have to be near the boss to get in all of its juicy hits. It has a fairly long range, making it a great skill to use when the boss steps back or moves away, and you don't have to chase it down right away. Note that this skill also pushes you back, which can be used to your advantage to position yourself out of danger or into an advantageous DPS position. Surge Cannon also has a directional hack, as you might call it. A lot of times, when you're in the boss's face, almost inside his hitbox, or if the boss is literally standing on top of you, it might seem like you're going behind him, but if you shoot to the head attack direction towards his backside, you can still get the head attack because the hitbox doesn't know whether you're really behind him or in front of him, but rather calculates the direction of your shots. Keep this in mind when the boss is literally standing on top of you and you want the bonus head attack damage. Alright, so next let's get into maxing your shield. This is a small secret tip that's helped my performance by leaps and bounds. The small tip is the protection rune and when to use it. So the rune builds a percentage of your health as a temporary shield. This temporary shield always gets used before your identity shield. This is extremely useful to know when you're in a position where you need to maximize the duration of your shield on particularly hard-hitting bosses. You want to use a skill that you equip the rune on as the boss is doing a particularly nasty attack. I prefer to put this rune on my shield bash because the cooldown on it is pretty short and can be used often. The effects are twofold because as I'm positioning myself to do more damage to the boss with movement from the shield bash, while doing damage, the damage done to our shield is lessened as the temporary shield buffers our identity shield. This allows us to dive into danger and to face tank longer and get in more hits. Next is knowing when to toggle your shield on and off. For the most part, you will want to keep your shield up at all times. There are moments though where you should save your shield. When a boss is in a phase switch and nothing is going on, for example Egrection when he's switching his phases, or if the boss is down and you have a shield from another player such as a Bard or Paladin. The shield effect should always be up though, whether it's from you or another player, because we rely on barricade engraving to boost our damage. Next is the dreaded Backjump, but why it can be good. This is the bane of most Gunlancer players. It takes only a few weeks to get the hang of, but a lifetime to master with pinpoint precision. Even to this day, I find myself slightly being off in my jump direction and getting completely smashed or frozen by the boss, which is annoying. But we all work at it and become accustomed to it. Realize that this is the worst dodge in the game, period. It's a short range dodge and it's slow and it's also backwards. The only good thing about this slower animation is that we can more easily time the glorious iframe. The iframe is status invincible to literally everything except for grabs and one-shot mechanics. So if you've played any fighting game, you know that iframe stands for invincibility frame. So literally, electrocutes, freezes, stuns, they're all iframeable. Some status effect attacks are impossible for us to dodge when we have our shield up. There's simply not enough time to jump, then toggle the shield off and run. We can often jump and shield charge to run away, but it may not always be up. In these moments, I just keep my shield up to take the hit, but iframe by jumping at the right timing into a position where I can do damage. This is twofold because first, it keeps you from becoming hard CC'd, and at the same time, you're in a position to do more damage right away. This seems super risky and counterintuitive when first doing it, but once you know about its timing, it becomes quite handy in not being stunned, frozen, shocked for 5 or 10 seconds at a time, which is a major damage loss. Now, later on in the endgame, this one may not seem very advanced for a lot of my early Chatlancer followers. It may even be obvious because we've talked about it so much, but I still want to put it in here as all the new Giga Chads in the making don't know about it. So later on, when Legion raids and new Guardians come out, they utilize a lot of emphasis on counter mechanics. For this reason, I take out the skill Shield Shock and put in Dash Upper Fire. While we have Bash as a counter already, it's soon clear to see that its range and speed are far from optimal when you're trying to counter a Raging Legion raid or end tier Guardian. The Dash Upper Fire provides excellent speed and range in your counters. I consider this one of the best counters in the game. You can literally counter from half a screen away with the swiftness, and you'll feel great when you completely thwart a boss's plans and make him take a knee. This can even be replaced earlier if you feel like it. There will be a slight DPS loss though. At level 55, you get the opportunity to plus 11 all your skills. So when you hit level 55, you want to plus 11 every skill that you can, starting with the big damage skills, and then take out Shield Shock completely and put in Dash Upper Fire. This is how we get ready for Baltan, the first Legion raid, and this will be the build that we keep until the end of all Legion raids. From now on, this is our final form basically. And finally, this is the bonus tip. Remap your Z key to your side mouse button. It helps tremendously in shield control. The reason is that you can't be playing finger twister with a Z key and be as efficient as using the mouse button. For example, pressing Z and A and Z and Q in rapid succession is damn near impossible. It won't be nearly as fast as with the side mouse button. I've made this change and have never looked back. It may feel weird at first, but once you get used to it, it'll be tremendously more efficient than the finger twister default key setup, allowing you to flash out and put your shield back up instantly to stay in the pocket and crank that deeps. So that's it for now, but I'd recommend you stop by the stream to catch even more tips that we discuss on the fly, including other classes with live tests and some good old fashioned rage honing. Catch you in the next one.